Okay, ladies and gentlemen, couple things. We're going to do a couple review problems, then the next video is going to be the new material. As you can see, I'm going to start out with a couple pieces of information. What I'm doing is I'm simply going to the modules in Canvas, going down to probability, and going to, I'm sorry, not probability, z-scores, and going down to quiz number 1. Okay, if we go to quiz number 1, you can open it up in Word, and it shows up right here. So what we have is we have this first problem right here that we're going to do. Given a group of group of items with a mean of 22 and standard deviation of 4.7, find the following probabilities. And so we take and we write down our key information, and we're going to be finding this probability right here. So going from these problems over here to this right here, that's what we're going to take off. Now, you'll want to also make sure you have your probability distribution calculator pulled up and ready to go. Now, obviously, anytime we're doing a z-score, z equals x minus mu over sigma. Now, you'll notice it's this one because we're not talking about groups, we're talking about an item. So we come up with another, our case, 24.5 minus 22 all over 4.7. Now, if you do the calculations on that, hold that thought. Okay, so if we run this calculation through the calculator, we come up with 0.532. Now we're going to go to our probability distribution calculator and see where we go from there. Plug in z, 0.532. Answers are, now, since we're looking for x is greater than, it's going to be bigger, so it's going to be area to the right. So our answer here is 0.297363. It's found in the area to the right. Now, the next problem in this section suggests that we find to the left. If we find to the left of 19.5, you would do exactly the same thing. Do your calculations. And be right back. I come up in this case with negative 0.532. So we need our probability distribution calculator. Negative 0.532. Enter. And in this case, since it's less than, we're going to be going area to the left. Area to the left is going to be 0.29. So you'll notice this was finding an area over here. This, because it says less than, instead of finding the area greater than, this is finding the less than. Even though they're the same number, they're on opposite ends. This is how much would be greater than, how much would be less than. All right, moving on, we come up with a between. Now for a between, we're going to do left minus left. So we want the probability that 20.8 less than x less than 23.5. Okay. Using the same information. So we're going to say 20.8 minus 22 all over 4.7. We're going to need to find a z-score and a probability for that. 23.5 minus 22 all over 4.7. We're going to have to find a z-score and a probability for that. And again, we're going to go left minus left. So, doing a couple calculations. By doing the calculations, we come up with a z-score for the lower number of negative 0.255. For the higher number, the area to the left is 0.318. And when we put those two in, we got to put them in the probability distribution calculator. Negative 0.255. Because remember, these are z-scores until we put them in. You also notice that it is impossible for a probability to be negative, so it's easy to remember these are z-scores versus probabilities that x are less than 20.8 or less than whatever we're looking for. In this case, we get 0.399. For the other one, plug it in, 0.319, enter, and we come up with 0.625. So, I now have area to the left and area to the left. So I'm going to take the larger area to the left minus the smaller area to the left. So 0.625 minus 0.399. 0.625 minus 0.399. Answer is the area in the middle is going to be 0.226. So the probability that x is greater than 20.8 but less than 23.5 is 0.226. There we go. All right, let's go on to the next problem. If we take a look at this problem, it says, given a group of items with a mean of 127 and a standard deviation of 12.3, find the following probabilities. We need to find the z-score that fits this left probability. Find the z-score. Well, if we have 0.325, all I have to do is put it in the, as you can see, left 0.325. And the z-score is negative 0.453. That's the z-score that goes along with it. Now, once I find the z-score that goes along with this, I could actually plug it in and find what specific number for x found it by simply multiplying both sides times 12.3 and then adding 127 to both sides. So, with a little bit of calculation, after just a little bit of calculation, you'll find negative 0.53 times 12.3 plus 127 yields 121.4. X would equal 121.4. So the z-score necessary would be negative 4.53. The actual value, the data piece that would find you that is 121.4. So those are two things working this problem backwards. Let's go to the next problem here. Finally, it says, given a group of items, we want to find the value. Well, that's really what we've done here, is we found the value of x. So in this case, we're pretty well good with that. Now, let's pause and see if we can do a couple others. The last type of problem that we've gone over is one like number 27. It says the average repair cost of a microwave is $55. The standard deviation is $8. The costs are normally distributed. If 12 ovens are repaired, find the probability that the mean repair bill is greater than 60. So, using that information, we need to write down all our key components. And I'm getting this from Z-Score Practice. That's where this is coming from, Z-Score Practice. We have standard oven, it's $55. We have a standard deviation of $8. N equals 12 ovens. Find the probability that X is greater than 60. Now, you'll notice we have one big difference between this problem and the rest of the problems that we've done. In this case, we have an entire group of 12 ovens. So now instead of this formula, we're going to need Z equals X bar minus mu over sigma divided by square root of N. So in this case, we want to know our cost, 60, minus the average cost, 55, over the standard deviation of 8, divided by repairing them in groups of 12. So in this case, we have this divide by square root of n, which we didn't have up there. That would give us a calculation of 2.16. 2.16, almost 2.17. Now, all of you should already recognize we have a small issue. This is only 12 units large. So if I only have 12 units, I probably ought to be using, instead of Z, I should be using T with 11 degrees of freedom, finding 2.17. And again, because it is greater than, because we are greater than, that means when I hit calculate, we're going to want the area to the right. So, probability that x bar is greater than 60 is going to be 0.0264, or approximately 2.6%. Using our probability distribution calculator, we came up here 0.0264, which is approximately 2.6%. You'll notice, because it was done in a group, you had to use the square root of n. Additionally, because it was a small group, you had to use t's, not z's. So that should bring us all up to speed on how to do those problems from that page and the page before. Additionally, wanted to highlight something for you. If you go to Canvas, enter the modules, you have a pretty good example right here. Z-score example walks you through the entire setup. So it will walk you through all the way down on these problems. So, giving you kind of an idea of where to go. So, using that, that's going to be very productive. The next video is going to be on confidence intervals.